The discipline of thought, the birthplace of the unrealistic life. If your dream feels too big to others, you're not wrong. You're just early. You see, the masses have been trained to shrink what they want, to lower their aim, to be realistic. But you were not made for that. You were made to create what others call unrealistic, because you know that reality bends for the man who first conquers his mind. The impossible is not a matter of size. It is a matter of thinking. Every empire, every invention, every revolution began in a place no one else could see, the mind of a man or woman who refused to bow to average thought. Success is not the product of effort alone. It is the product of disciplined thought. Before you win in the world, you must win within. Let me tell you something. The world won't. You don't rise to your goals. You fall to the level of your thinking. And your thinking is either built by intention or infected by fear. A belief alone is not enough. Belief is a flame, but it dies quickly in the winds of adversity unless it's fortified into identity. That means repetition. That means obsession. That means speaking your future with such clarity and consistency. Your subconscious has no choice but to obey. The man who wins is not the man with the most talent, but the man who has trained himself to be locked in. You want the edge? Stop treating your dream like an option. Make it a requirement. Stop waiting for signs, for permission, for confidence. Decide. Decide now that your thoughts will no longer be weak, scattered, or convenient. They will be disciplined, focused, commanding. That's how reality is changed. And understand this. There's a reason average thinkers will call your life unrealistic, because you've decided to live by a different code. A code not of limitation, but of dominion. So from this moment on, I invite you to speak these words over your life, not once, but daily, until they become your operating system. I do not think like the world. I think like the builder of empires. I do not obey limitations. I replace them with decision. I am not waiting to be worthy. I've trained my mind to be ready, because the man who lives by this code does not just chase a dream. He becomes the kind of man who can build it, no matter what. So build, lead, dominate, not through arrogance, but through inner alignment, not with noise, but with quiet certainty. And when the world tells you it's impossible, smile. Because you know that's just another word for it hasn't been done by you yet. When others claim your dream is too big, what they are often revealing is not a flaw in your vision, but a limitation in their own. It is not the size of your ambition that disturbs them. It is the mirror it holds up to their unchallenged comfort. To dream beyond the boundaries of conventional thinking is not recklessness. It is evidence of a mind that refuses to be confined by the inherited limits of fear, tradition, or mediocrity. A dream that stretches reality, that feels heavy with magnitude, is not a liability. It is a signal. It means you are aiming at something worthy of the full capacity of your mind, soul, and spirit. Greatness never begins in agreement with the crowd. The initial stages of true vision will always appear too large, too distant, or too unachievable. Not because they are, but because they have not yet been filtered through the slow, transformative process of thought discipline and mental alignment. When you are told it is too much, what you are really hearing is, I cannot comprehend the depth of what you see, and that is not your burden to carry. You must remember, reality does not resist the man who is consistent. It resists the man who seeks comfort. The human mind, when trained properly, is not a passive receiver of circumstance. It is an active architect of outcome. What appears unrealistic to the untrained thinker is simply the early blueprint of destiny to the man who knows how to anchor his thoughts to disciplined inner conviction. The size of your dream is not what matters most. It is the intensity of your relationship to it. A man whose mind has made peace with the impossible is no longer seeking permission. He is issuing instructions to reality. Thoughts are not fleeting wisps of imagination drifting through the mind without consequence. They are the original blueprints of all human experience. the unseen scaffolding upon which the architecture of your life is built. Every achievement, every failure, every action or hesitation is first conceived in the realm of thought. The laws that govern your results do not begin in the external world. They begin in the pattern, standards, and precision of your inner dialogue. It is here that destiny is shaped, not by luck, not by birthright, but by the quality and direction of thought repeated with consistency and intent. The ceiling of your future is not imposed by society, circumstances, or other people. It is imposed by the limits of your habitual thinking. The mind, left undisciplined, will default to safety, to scarcity, to repetition of the familiar. But a man who refines his thoughts, who treats each one as a seed capable of either greatness or stagnation, will find that he no longer needs external permission to expand. He becomes governed by internal order, driven by clarity rather than confusion, guided by creation rather than reaction. Your mind is not simply a container for ideas. It is an instrument of precision, a tool of transformation. To think without intention is to surrender your life to random outcome. But to think with design, to filter every thought through the lens of strength, vision, and possibility is to take full command of your future. Most people decorate their minds with borrowed opinions and recycled fears. But the man who seeks mastery must eliminate mental clutter, cleanse his inner environment, and raise his cognitive standard to reflect the world he intends to build. Every next level of life will demand a higher version of thought, more exacting, more powerful, and more unwilling to tolerate the ordinary. Belief in its common form is fragile. It flickers in the presence of doubt, and it wavers under the weight of delay or difficulty. Most people treat belief as a feeling to be possessed when conditions are favorable, but belief untrained is insufficient. True internal transformation does not arise from belief alone. It is forged in the furnace of identity, relentlessly built and obsessively reinforced. Identity is not merely what you say you are. It is what your subconscious accepts as unchangeable truth through the repetition of disciplined thought and decisive action. Until your belief becomes identity, it remains vulnerable to external circumstances. To construct identity at the highest level requires more than inspiration. It demands a system of reinforcement, daily rituals, mental rehearsal, focused self-dialogue, until who you are becomes indistinguishable from what you are becoming. Belief is passive without identity. It remains hope, but identity is active. It speaks in commands, not requests. When a man no longer believes he might succeed but knows he cannot fail, not because of arrogance, but because he has forged that knowing in repetition, then his thoughts begin to command his reality instead of merely react to it. This transformation is not accidental. It must be cultivated with precision. Every affirmation repeated with emotion. Every visualization practiced with vivid clarity. Every decision aligned with a future self. These are not motivational exercises. They are neural reprogramming protocols. You are not trying to become successful. You are becoming the kind of man who success is drawn to. And that shift does not occur with mere belief. It occurs when your mental environment becomes so obsessively aligned with your vision that your identity evolves to match it. When belief fuses with obsession, and obsession becomes identity, reality is no longer resisted, it is restructured. Clarity is the foundation of power, and repetition is its amplifier. Without clarity, the mind is scattered, unable to distinguish between what is essential and what is noise. Most people do not fail from lack of potential. They fail from a lack of focus. Clarity is not a luxury. It is a prerequisite for creation. A man who does not know precisely what he seeks cannot marshal the full force of his thought. The human mind, left unfocused, will dissipate its energy in 10,000 directions. But once clarity is established, thought becomes a laser capable of cutting through obstacles, resistance, and illusion. Repetition, then, is the tool by which clarity becomes command. The subconscious mind does not respond to intensity. It responds to consistency. One thought spoken with power 1,000 times is infinitely more transformative than 1,000 thoughts whispered once. When you return to the same mental image, the same declaration, the same truth again and again, you are not merely thinking, you are programming. You are encoding that vision into the deepest levels of your identity until it is no longer an idea, but a command. The nervous system begins to obey. Focused thought is not mere concentration. It is disciplined cognitive architecture. It is the process by which intention becomes structure, and structure becomes influence over reality. The man who trains his thoughts with precision, who selects them like weapons and repeats them like rituals, becomes the designer of his own fate. He is no longer at the mercy of external variance because his internal environment has become ordered, sharp, and singular in direction. Clarity is the compass, repetition is the ritual. Together they become the governing force of perception and the mechanism by which thought shapes circumstance. You do not wait for the world to shift. You train your mind until the world cannot help but follow. The man who becomes unstoppable is not the one born with the greatest gifts, but the one who forges the strongest focus. Talent is common. Resolve is rare. Natural ability may give a head start, but it is unwavering commitment that determines who endures the storms and bends reality to will. The illusion of potential has deceived many, thinking that the possession of skill alone guarantees progress. But without deep alignment to a singular mission, even the most gifted are prone to distraction, indecision, and eventual collapse under pressure. The unstoppable man is not distracted by options because he has made an inner vow with his objective. Commitment at its highest level is not just action, it is identity. It is not an occasional burst of effort, but a continuous state of being. This kind of focus does not come from external pressure or superficial motivation. It arises from an inner code that does not tolerate contradiction. The man who is locked in operates from a different frequency. One where time is no longer wasted negotiating with excuses, doubts, or the opinions of others. He moves not from emotion, but from internal instruction. There is a kind of spiritual gravity to the man who has chosen his path with finality. His energy no longer leaks into comparison or confusion because he has eliminated the luxury of divided attention. It is not intelligence alone that moves mountains. It is the power of a directed will. When a man resolves within himself that the mission is not optional, he no longer waits to feel ready, inspired, or accepted. He becomes the kind of man for whom retreat is no longer a possibility. This is not obsession in the chaotic sense, but in the refined form, an inner stillness sharpened into absolute clarity of pursuit. That kind of man does not chase results. He attracts them by who he has decided to become. Average thinking is not neutral. It is a silent toxin that corrodes ambition from within. It speaks in subtle phrases like, be realistic, take it slow, or don't get your hopes up. It masquerades as caution, humility, or pragmatism, but in truth, it is fear wearing the mask of wisdom. The mind that entertains average thought cannot produce extraordinary outcomes. To transcend mediocrity, one must first recognize that average is not a place. It is a mental construct, reinforced by repetition, environment, and cultural programming. Most people are not held back by their lack of opportunity, but by their allegiance to inherited limitations. To live a life others call unrealistic, you must first stop thinking in the language of the common. This requires a violent break from mental comfort zones, a deliberate dismantling of beliefs that were never chosen, only absorbed. Extraordinary results do not come from greater resources, but from superior inner frameworks. The mind that achieves the unthinkable is not chaotic or impulsive. It is governed by clarity, vision, and the refusal to accept imposed ceilings. It does not seek agreement, it seeks alignment with its own higher standard. When you eliminate average thinking, you also sever ties with average behaviors. Hesitation, procrastination, excuse-making, emotional indulgence. You begin to operate with urgency, not panic, with decisiveness, not recklessness. Your self-talk evolves from doubt to direction. You no longer negotiate with potential. You act as one already appointed to the task. The world may label it unrealistic, but that's only because they cannot yet see what you've already decided within, what they call extreme, you call normal, what they fear to speak, you've declared aloud for years. This level of thinking does not conform to circumstances. It commands them. It refuses to imitate. It initiates. It is not about arrogance. It is about absolute inner alignment with the life you were designed to lead.